Hi everybody and welcome back to Time to Go. Bob here. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. So today we're going to be taking a look at a watch brand that up until now I've had very little hands-on experience with. The brand is Zodiac, and we're going to be taking a look at the Super Seawolf 53. This is a reissue of the original model that was launched in 1953. Now, since I've had this watch, I've been doing some research, watching a few videos and reading some write-ups on the watch, both this version and the original. And I've accidentally come across a function of this watch that I've never seen on any other watch before. I've never heard of this at all. And it's kind of an interesting one. So we'll talk about that here in a minute, but let's get into the Zodiac. Alright, now if you guys have ever looked at the original, you'll know this is a pretty faithful reissue in the looks department. There's a couple of obvious changes between the two I'll point out as we go over the watch, but they've really stuck with the original styling here. I'm glad that they have, because I think it's just an awesome looking watch as is. Now, I'm not going to go into the full history, but the 1953 release was right in the mix with the first divers by Rolex and Blancpain. It was quite a popular watch at the time. So Zodiac is one of those brands that has bounced around between ownership, with Fossil being the current owner. I know a lot of you guys aren't Fossil fans, but whoever's in charge at Zodiac has really been doing it right over there the last couple of years with some great releases, including the new Bezel release, the new GMT, which I believe is already sold out. Really hoping they come out with some more versions of that one. I really like the look of that. This particular model comes out in a couple of dial colors and strap options. For me, it was a toss-up between the black and silver dial, but the Jubilee bracelet was a must. It's really well made with solid end links. Nice polish work on those center links and brushwork on the outers. The links are using a pin and collar system for sizing. It's a bit of a pain to size, but nothing too serious. So when I was first looking at some write-ups on this watch, mostly from when it first came out, one difference I'm finding on this one versus those is the clasp. If I just open it up here, I'm not sure if there was different clasp options to begin with, or if maybe this is just a later version, but this one uses this deployant clasp versus a more vintage style clasp on some of the other models I've seen. And I'm not usually a fan of these types of clasps, mostly because of the lack of micro adjust, but just check this out here if we close it. And one nice thing that they've done is it is spring-loaded, so if your wrist swells a little bit through the day, you're going to have that added comfort, and I really like that. One other thing that they've done here is the bracelet has a nice taper from 20 down to 16 millimeters at the clasp, which is also going to add to that comfort. Size-wise, the watch comes in at a case width of 39 millimeters. Lug-to-lug's a little over 47 millimeters, so quite long in relation to the width. The lug opening is 20 millimeters, and the thickness is almost 13 millimeters, including the domed sapphire crystal with AR coating. And this is where we have one of the biggest differences between this and the original, and that's just the dimensions. The original had a case width of 35 millimeters, so a fair amount smaller. The water resist is 200 meters. The watch houses the STP 111 movement, which is Fossil movement. It's an ETA 2024 clone. I'm going to throw up a shot of it here. It's pretty nicely decorated and has been running between +6 and +8 seconds a day. Keep in mind, I don't have a time grapher. That's just setting it against a G-Shock and using it for daily wear over a couple of days. So not the most accurate test, but gives you an idea. The dial goes from a black to almost a dark silver depending on the lighting, with a slight sunburst effect. Another difference between the new and old is the print work. Up top we have the applied Zodiac logo and Zodiac printed below that. On the original they also had in script Seawolf. Down by the 6 we have the text automatic with the depth rating, where on the original the depth rating was omitted. The markers at the 6, 9, and 12 totally make the watch to me. This in a no date with the same marker at 3 I think would be cool too, but I appreciate that they stuck to the original dial layout. All the markers are applied, including the frame around the date. I love the handset with that split between the loom. Apparently they did that to help prevent the loom from cracking and falling out versus having the whole width of the hands filled with loom. It's a pretty cool look in the end. So they're using C3 Superluminova, and I thought it'd be a little bit better. It's decent, but as it fades, there's a little blotchiness, especially in those triangular markers. Now, normally on a diver, I like to see that second hand loomed, but again, they're sticking with the original. The original did not have loom on the second hand, so I can appreciate that on this particular model. So for me, in this case, it's not a negative. The bezel is an all-steel coin edge bezel, and there's a couple of interesting things happening with it. One is at the 30-minute mark where we have the 30 upside down when compared to what you'd normally see on a bezel. If you look at my orient here, you can see that the bottom of the numerals are always pointed inward. The fact that the 30 is the only numeral on the bezel makes it not so noticeable. If you're not using the bezel regularly, in a way, it kind of looks better like this. The other kind of fun fact that I'd mentioned at the start of the video, and well, maybe it's not a fact because I haven't been able to confirm this 100%, but if you look closely between the pip of the bezel and the 15-minute mark, there's those little triangles at every 3-minute mark. I saw someone in the comment section of a review say that these were to time long-distance calls, and apparently calls were charged in 3-minute blocks. These markings were used so you could get the most out of your 3 minutes, and I did find some info on the whole charging in 3-minute blocks, but nothing to specifically link these bezel markings to that. So if anybody's aware of this or has any more information or a link to where I can find more information, I'd really appreciate it. That same commenter did mention that there's other watches with these same markings, so if it's true, I think that makes the watch all the cooler to me. The bezel is a 120 click bezel. Good action and super easy to grip with how the bezel, if you look here, it just extends just beyond the edge of the case there. Next to nothing for play and no alignment problems at all. The case is almost completely brushed other than the tops of the lugs. The lugs have that nice angled drop off, which looks good and helps it to conform to the wrist. If we flip the watch over, you can see that the crown is signed. It is a screw down crown, and just as a whole, I'm really loving this watch. So let's cap this off with a quick wrist shot. And here it is, and this watch just wears perfectly to me. With the longer lugs, it kind of reminds me of how my old 39mm Airman used to wear. I just love the whole look, the hour markers, the handset, the steel bezel. This bracelet is just the icing on the cake. It's one of those watches that's just really fun to wear. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. And if anybody has any more information on the whole timing of the long distance calls, I'd love to hear on that too. So appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.